Hello, I'm that geeky gamer, and welcome to my show. Well, I just had the worst dream. I dreamt I was playing a Crash Bandicoot game that was actually bad. I mean, it was awful. Really awful. It was just so bad and so boring that it actually put me to sleep. Oh, I am so glad it was just a dream. Wait a minute. Why was I sleeping? It's nowhere near my bedtime yet. I shouldn't be sleeping now. What's that? Oh no. No. It can't be. It just can't be real. It has to be a dream. This game should not exist. But here it is. Well, I guess there's no avoiding this, is there? I guess I should just get this over with and take a look at Crash Bash. Oh boy, do we have a sad case lined up for the day. Words cannot express how little I want to review this pile of Bandicoot droppings, so let's just get this over with. First of all, let me just say that I fucking love the Crash Bandicoot games. I've loved them ever since I first played the first game. Hell, it was one of the main reasons I got a PlayStation in the first place. There hasn't been a single game in the entire series that I didn't absolutely adore. Well, almost not. You see, after the original creators Naughty Dog stopped making the Crash games and sold off the rights to other developers, the games did drop a little in quality. They were still pretty damn good for the most part, but this one just sucks. Now, as it was the first game not to be developed by Naughty Dog, and since it is a spin-off rather than part of the main series, you might be thinking that I should cut it some slack. But I'm sorry, this game is just plain shit. I'm sorry. I just need a minute before we continue. Okay, let's take a look. So, for those of you who don't know, let me start by explaining just what this game is all about. As I said, Crash Bash is a spin-off of the Crash Bandicoot series, and as such, it's not a platformer. No, this game is a so-called party game, and is aimed more towards multiplayer gameplay than anything else. Great. Yet another way to make my friends hate me. Okay, so the game obviously has a single-player mode, but it is definitely meant to be played with friends, and although playing this game with others makes it slightly better, it's not by much. It still sucks donkey balls. Anyway, the game basically consists of 7 minigames. Each of these minigames have their own rules and objectives, and there are some minor variations on them as you progress through the game, at least in the so-called adventure mode, but basically the game consists of nothing more than playing the same 7 minigames over and over and over. Wow! This is really going to blow, isn't it? I mean, 7 minigames? That's it? 7? We have to sit through 28 levels of the same 7 minigames over and over? Man, they really went out of their way to make this as dull as possible, didn't they? Seriously, this game gets so unbelievably repetitive, so insanely fast, that you want to cut off your own hand just to add some variety to the mix. But what about the actual games themselves, I hear you ask? Maybe they're so good that it doesn't matter that the game gets repetitive. They're not, but let's take a closer look anyway. First, there's the Ballistic Levels. Here, each player gets a certain number of points, and then some orbs or metal balls or whatever they are released on the field. The objective is to knock the balls into the opponent's goals while keeping them out of your own. In order to do this, the player can either just knock the balls away with their ships or use various abilities and power-ups, the availability of which varies from level to level. For instance, in some levels you can knock the balls away with a force blast, and in others you can also attach them to your ship in order to shoot them away with increased force. The game itself isn't really all that bad, and it can actually get pretty intense and exciting for a few seconds. You see, the game takes way too fucking long to complete. This is essentially true for all of the minigames, but they basically did everything to drag this game out as long as they could. First of all, the players usually has way too many points for this kind of thing. I mean, 15 points each? Considering you have to eliminate 3 other contestants, that's way too much. Maybe I'm being a little too strict here, but I think it would have been much better to give the players only about 3 to 5 points. It takes forever to eliminate even one opponent, as they usually manage to block a few shots every now and then. As if that wasn't enough, they felt the need to lengthen the game time even more. You see, in the adventure mode, the game isn't over until someone wins 3 times. Oh, that's great. Just fucking great. This game doesn't just bore you, it drags the boredom out and makes the boredom itself tedious. How is that even possible? Oh, okay, so this is only in the adventure mode and only when you're trying to get the trophies, but it's still fucking ridiculous. In fact, since in the adventure mode you actually have to collect not only the trophies, but also the gems and crystals, at least some of them, you actually have to win most of the minigames even more times than that. My fuck does this get boring, which brings me to another problem. You see, since this, and for that matter all of the other minigames, get so fucking tedious, you, or at least I, start to suck way more since it's impossible to keep up your interest and focus. So many times you end up making obvious mistakes, since you're just not paying attention. You're way too bored to. At least I am. Oh, sorry about that. I was just off watching grass grow. Trust me, it's way better than playing this game. So let's move on to the next game, Polar Push. In this game, the players run around on the backs of some polar bear cubs trying to push each other off of an iceberg, and the last player standing wins. There are a few power-ups you can collect, and the level itself might be tilting or something. This game is probably my favorite of the bunch, as it's definitely the shortest one. It can still go on a bit too long at times, but this is usually the fastest game. That being said though, it's still not good. It sometimes feels as if the other players are way stronger than you, and it can be somewhat difficult to make accurate charges. This is also where we get our first example of how fucked the camera can get. Usually, it's pretty good, but in this and in the Polka Pandemonium games in particular, it can at times make it near impossible to see where the hell you are, or where you're going, as you get obscured by the other characters and certain objects. Okay, so maybe it would have been a bit tricky to avoid that, considering the type of game this is and all, but in my opinion, the camera still sucks. I mean, how hard is it to make sure that the camera isn't obscured by anything? What? The next game is called Polka Pandemonium. Here, the players jump around a field on pogo sticks trying to turn squares into their assigned colors. In order to collect the colorized squares and get points, the player must do a certain task that varies from level to level. This could be smashing a special crate or encircling areas to collect the center squares. This game is, again, not really all that bad. In fact, I think it's slightly better than the Ballistic Levels, if anything, but as with those levels and all the others, they're way too long-winded. In addition, the controls on these games are incredibly slow and unresponsive. It feels like it always takes a few extra seconds for the moves you input to register, and that is not a good thing. Also, as I mentioned before, this game also has camera issues just like the Polar Push games. I'm not sure if it's worse in this game or that one, but they're both pretty damn bad. Then, we have the Crate Crush games, where the players run and jump around the field while trying to hit each other with various crates in order to deplete each other's health bar. The players can either throw the crates or knock them into each other by spinning into them or pushing them somehow, and the last player standing wins. If more than one player is left when the time runs out, the player with the most health left is the winner. This game is fairly okay, but suffers from the same tediousness as the others, as well as some of the camera issues seen in the Polar Push and Polka Pandemonium levels. It can also be a bit hard to throw crates accurately, and occasionally, it feels like the crates are completely unnecessary, as it can be much easier and more efficient to just ram into the other players directly, just like in real life! Yeah, my life is kinda strange. The fifth type of game is called Tank Wars, and it's pretty much what you would expect with a name like that. The players all get their own tank and drive around a grid trying to kill each other by firing various weapons or by laying mines on the road. It's kinda like Bomberman, except, well, suckier. It once again gets really boring, but this game's biggest problem is probably the controls, which blow arse! They're sluggish, at times somewhat confusing, and overall just awful. Also, firing the weapons is a huge pain in the dick! You can't shoot rapidly enough, not even close! You see, you can only fire one shot at a time. You might not think that sounds so bad, but you see, you cannot fire again until the shot hits someone or expires, which can take way too long, especially if you're surrounded. Why the shit can't you just fire more shots at a time? It would fix so fucking much! And as if that's not enough, you can actually kill yourself with your own bleeping shot!
See what I did there? I bleeped myself. I took the joy away from the senses.
If you misjudge the angle of your projectile so that it somehow bounces back to you, you take a hit and lose health. I guess you could say that it is fairly reasonable to have it like that, but when the controls are this horrible, you should at least be able to avoid your own shots. The second to last game is called Crash Dash, and it's basically just a very small race taking place on a circular circuit on top of a pillar. Each player gets a certain amount of points, and each completed lap decreases that number. As you probably guessed, the winner is the player who can deplete their points first. Basically, this is the shortest, most boring race ever conceived, and I will spare you the pointlessness of going into any more detail since, well, there are no more details. Finally, there's the medieval Mayhem levels, which I actually don't have any footage of. You see, I just couldn't be bothered to play far enough to unlock these levels. I was just way too bored and fed up with this fuckload of a game to continue playing. Maybe that makes this a bit unfair, and maybe you think I'm just lazy, but you know what? I just don't care. I simply couldn't take another minute of this game, so I'm sorry, but there won't be any footage of the last game. I guess I should at least explain what the last game is, though. From what I understand, the medieval Mayhem levels are actually quite varied, with no real similarities between them. The only similarity is that they're all based on getting points, and the player with the most points at the end of the game wins. They're probably not all that interesting, but since I didn't play them, I guess I can't really say if they suck or not. However, based on the rest of the game, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they probably suck in some way or another. And that's what this game consists of. Just a bunch of, at best, mediocre, and at worst, plain horrific minigames with little to no redeeming value. The controls are far from perfect, the AI ranges from completely useless to unfucking beatable, and the overall design is just so damn lazy. Now, I know I didn't really talk about the storyline, but if you really want to know, I can pretty much sum it up like this. I'm a magic mask of good, and I'm the best. I'm a magic mask of evil, and I'm the best. Let's settle this. Let's have a contest. Fine, let's get some players. Hey, you have too many players. Give me some. Fine, you big pussy. May the best mask win. And that's pretty much it. It's nothing special, but I guess it didn't need to be. In any case, this game truly sucks anal grease. How the hell could they do this to something as great as Crash Bandicoot? Okay, so it may not be the worst game out there, but it's definitely the worst thing to have anything to do with Crash Bandicoot. In fact, this game is so horrible that I only have one thing to say to the developers. You fail. This game should have stayed in the dark corners of the hell it came from, and I implore each and every one of you to stay as far away from this dung pile as possible. If you want something other than a platformer starring Crash Bandicoot, then check out Crash Team Racing. That game is freaking awesome! In fact, that's not a bad idea! I'm That Geeky Gamer. Thanks for watching, hope to see you again next time, and until then, have a great week. Bye.